Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. We have a good one for you, as always. We're keeping you posted with the latest results here live on Thursday night around 11. Could Biden close in on 270 while we are on the air? It is a distinct possibility. Could he officially seal the deal in one of those states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada in some cases, or Arizona in some cases, Nevada, Pennsylvania? Those are the states that we are watching tonight as Donald Trump lies in the White House briefing room. The network's pulling the plug, still going with that harmful election rhetoric, slamming his fingers all over the buttons of democracy and state. But the state is saying so long to Donald Trump. Meanwhile, how the Democrats are taking care of their losses. Claire McCaskill blaming talking too nice about the transsexuals on MSNBC. Oh, those goddamn transsexuals, am I right, Claire? And Abigail Spanberger and others melting down about socialism in seats all across the country, and the harmful rhetoric of things like raising the minimum wage and passing Medicare for all. Oh, impossible. No, these people lost because they suck. We will get into it, and we will get into what should be done about it as well. We are live tonight as the race for 270 comes to a close. This is Newsflash. My name is Spencer Walsh. We start with the latest today as the counting continues. Biden is cutting into Trump's lead in Pennsylvania and Georgia. We continue to monitor all this live here with the updates on the paths to victory. Here is some of what Joe Biden had to say as the vote counting process played out. And again, you will, and in the clips we'll play here, we will note the tone difference.
The vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So
there is Biden there projecting confidence, staying relatively cogent sounding, which is nice. And again, with the winner of the presidency yet to be declared, attention shifted to Thursday to a handful of states that remain too close to call, where on balance Joe Biden seemed to have an advantage, and the candidates pressed their cases in the state of the race. One of them doing it through completely insane, mashing his hands on, pressing every button he can, and finding that none of them will work. All the avenues that we were so scared about before the election, and the possibility that Trump may be able to somehow use his charm and looks and goodwill, I guess, and all the levers that seem to be at his disposal to push things off. But as we will get into, things are going away. I mean, just if we're looking at this current situation we have right now, with President Trump calling, again, a news conference at the White House where he made false and baseless claims about illegal votes, secret counts, and how forces were working to steal the election from him, saying, quote, "It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided," he said at one point, and ABC, CBS, and NBC all cut away with his false statements as they mounted. Just to get people to not talk about that. In several states, Trump's campaign pressed ahead with lawsuits challenging the voting count as protests erupted in cities and outside some elections offices. And this is really what we have. We have a situation where if I were to pull up just the elections, just to give you a sense of how things stand, the states that are kind of outstanding at the moment, the closest one is one that's been already called in a lot of different places. Actually, the closest one is Georgia right now. It is, wow, as I just checked, it is just about now 2,000 votes in Georgia. Insanely close margin here. It is just razor thin. Where Trump is up 40, it's 49.4 now to 49.4, less than 2,000 votes separating the two contenders there. North Carolina, Trump has a full 50% of the vote there, to Biden's 48.6. We'll see about that. About 95% of the votes in, and mail ballots postmarked by Election Day are accepted until November 12th. So in Arizona, we have a 50.1 to 48.5 Donald Trump lead. And the question about that is how many of those ballots, an unexpectedly high amount of mail-in ballots, are going for Trump there. So that is still a little bit doubt, but Arizona largely on track for a Trump or Biden victory. Biden also really locking things up in Nevada, but still incredibly close for a state that they thought they would win by maybe 4 or 5 points. What should be a pretty comfortable Democratic state if they paid attention to it. And another thing, if you're looking at right here, is Texas, where pretty much the big theme is just to break down the election map here for a little bit. I do want to before we get into some of this other stuff, I do want to break down the election maps, just kind of go from key point to key point here. We already talked about Georgia. From what we can tell, the remaining votes of that could be in Clayton County, which is kind of the Atlanta area suburbs, kind of in Georgia's also 5th district, which is funnily enough where the former John Lewis district. They will have a lot more votes there. That is pretty much the infinitesimally small percentage of the vote they have left to count. That is in a pretty solid Biden area, but we will not. This is one where we will not know until every single vote is counted, because it is that close. As we see, very, very possible Biden could take the lead as we get the last little trickle of votes in, and it's very, very possible that could happen while we are live here on air tonight. That would be quite something. But Arizona, 90%. A lot can happen in 10%. That is, I think, the state that is worth highlighting. Nevada is very, very likely to go for Trump. And for Biden. And in terms of Pennsylvania, that is another very, very interesting thing. And now a margin now less than 1%, 0.4%, and what looks to be less than 30,000 votes separating Trump and Biden in Pennsylvania now, with about 95% of the ballots, and the remaining mail ballots are again expected to favor Democrats, so that is tilting there in the Biden direction. So it's Georgia, North Carolina is going to be the big one that is going to go to Trump. Interestingly enough, so few mail-in ballots are not counted in the Senate, but in the Senate race up there in Alaska, Al Gross not giving up. It's a bold claim, but it's interesting. There's still so many mail ballots, so he's going to wait and see on that. I mean, it would be at least nice to have one Democratic senator. It really would be nice to have one Democratic senator in there, just due to an extra Democratic senator, just due to the fact that Georgia, in all likelihood, will not be going in any kind of way blue. Just again, and really in some certain areas, an epic failure for the Democrats. And really one big area, which is Latino vote. Boy, did they lose it. Chuck Rocha, a former, he was the guy who really, in a large part, engineered Bernie Sanders' big record support with Latino voters during the primaries. And he was like, oh yeah, he was one of the Bernie people who was probably the most conciliatory towards Joe Biden, really wanted to work with Joe Biden, and really emphasized that Latino vote would be so important to the chances of Joe Biden winning the election, and really winning it by a big amount. And literally, looking back at some of the results, it's very, very possible that if they had at least normal, or at least somewhat, maybe even a little bit better Latino turnout than Hillary had, they would have won Florida and Texas. If they had been able to get there and actually go into the Cuban communities, or at least do something to reach out to the Latino communities, so that the Cuban communities' voices wouldn't be as powerful. correct some misinformation. I mean, there was tons and tons of misinformation, but this is the thing. There was tons and tons of information by the Trump campaign in places like Broward and Miami-Dade, which was a 10-point rightward swing for Donald Trump. 10-point loss. Hillary Clinton had 63, Joe Biden had 53, 46% of the vote in Miami-Dade County for Donald Trump, just super, super high. Broward went down a little bit. Hendry County, all the counties up the right-hand coast of Florida, which is supposed to be the most liberal part of it, they went drastically away from Joe Biden, and those votes were the votes that pretty much sacrificed the state for him. On the kind of southwest part of Texas, for example, a big one, that's Maverick County, 54.3 to 44.9 with 98% of the votes in right there. 16,000 votes only for Joe Biden. That's a huge, probably at least 20-point swing. Starr County is a great example of that, but it's around a 30-point swing. Right word for Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton crushed in that county last time around. So it's not just Cuban American voters. I mean, the thing with Cuban American voters is, I think the biggest part of it was Trump came in there, actually spoke to them, and said a bunch of BS, which was, Joe Biden's a socialist. Biden was behind a month on putting ads in that area. So it's really not the most crazy thing to see something that is remotely close like that. But it is just an absolutely stunning thing. And the refusal to reach out and actually say, hey, I'm Joe Biden. Here's what I want to actually do for you. And again, not seeing the path to victory here. I mean, voter suppression was... You could say voter suppression, especially in a place like Texas, and maybe in a place like Florida as well. But voter suppression, was it really that much worse than 2016? But there is a big. It definitely could be a bit of both, but there definitely is a big part of what we see there. That is a very clear and very, very direct repudiation, and something the Democrats really need to think of in terms of the Latino vote. Massive rightward swings in Texas and massive rightward swings in Florida were really what gave Trump those two states. He has a lot of Latino voters to thank if he can, by some miracle, actually win this fairly, which, I mean, at this point seems very, very unlikely, with 253/264, depending on what you think about Arizona. Biden pretty much on the cusp of winning, and if Pennsylvania goes tonight, it is interesting, very, very interesting. So Democrats are urging Georgia to fix absentee ballots that were rejected because of invalid or missing signatures before the deadline on Friday evening. Another protest by supporters of President Trump unfolded on Thursday night in front of the Phoenix building, where ballots were being counted in Arizona's largest county. Philadelphia releases its first batch of results in hours, around half an hour ago, netting Biden more than 10,000 votes on the Trump lead. Again, in Pennsylvania, is now down to 26,000 votes as of 31 minutes ago. So we're going to keep you posted on all of that stuff. Meanwhile, we can talk about how Donald Trump reacted. It is a day after 2 days now of results just continuing to erode for him. All real possibility of any sort of success on this front has completely faded away. And that's hitting him hard. Like there's other plans being speculated. There's the Republican Party is kind of being thrown into the next fight for leadership, I guess you could say, which is going to be taking place probably indirectly until 2024, unless, as some have speculated, Trump runs again. And what will happen then? That is a whole real situation, because no matter what happens, no one accepts that pace like Donald Trump. So I think it is going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with the future of the Republican Party. But make no mistake, I call this episode Schrodinger's election for a reason. Like, there are huge embarrassments and huge holes being exposed on both sides for this one. A lot of things that a lot of people need to get up. But we'll get to the Democrats here in